everyone, Matthew from Audio Control here, coming to you from the Pacific Northwest Rainforest. Talk to you a little bit about Audio Control's lineup of mono subwoofer amplifiers. Before we get into the amplifiers, I wanted to bring up the Audio Control LC2i. It's our most popular high to low level converter, and for good reason. This will accept up to 40 volts of high level input, as well as having our built-in Accubase circuit. If you're not familiar with Accubase, Accubase was designed to help compensate for factory bass roll-off. Factory bass roll-off is when you turn up the volume on some OEM sound systems, it actually decreases the bass. Manufacturers built this into their vehicles so that they wouldn't have to replace as many blown speakers under warranty. Now that works fine for that purpose, but when you're adding an aftermarket amplifier and subwoofer, what you end up with is a system that has a lot of bass at low volume, but not much at high volume. Pretty much the exact opposite of what you want when adding an aftermarket high performance amp and sub. So that's what Accubase is for, that's what it's designed to help compensate for, and it works really well when it's set up correctly. So the reason I bring up the LC2i is because this unit and this circuitry is basically built in to all of Audio Control's amplifiers and their subwoofer amp lineup. A couple of common things that are in all of our amplifiers in this lineup are GTO signal sensing. This is designed to turn on the amplifier without feeding in a traditional remote level input. It can sense signal, turn on the amplifier automatically for you. So that helps in some challenging install situations. Also, we're going to have built-in crossovers, high level and low level inputs, as well as our ACR dash control knob input on all of these amplifiers. We'll talk more about that in just a sec. So let's start with the smallest amplifier. If we look at the ACM 1.300, this is a 300 watt subwoofer amp. It's physically tiny. If we look at it compared to an LC2i, it's not much bigger than an LC2i. So if you're already going to put in an LC2i with a small subwoofer amplifier, why not just put in the ACM 1.300? Now you've got 300 watts at 2 ohms, 175 at 4 ohms, all in one tiny little chassis with a built-in LC2i. So if you look at the input section on the side here, all of these amplifiers, the inputs are on one end, making the install a little bit cleaner and easier. This has our 30 amp fuse on the end here with 4 gauge power and ground inputs, high level and low level inputs, the ACR dash control knob input, and my speaker level output. If we take off the top plate and have a look at the controls and dials on this one, you can see our Accubase controls are here. I've got a variable crossover, which is either set at 80 Hertz, 120 Hertz low pass, or you can bypass it if you want to dial in the crossover somewhere else in the system. And then I have my gain control and a maximized light. The maximized light is to help you set up this amplifier as best as possible in your install. Make sure we're not getting any distortion and getting the maximum output from this amplifier. If we have a look at a little bit bigger power amp, we could go to the LC 1.800. This is going to give you 800 watts at 2 ohm. It's going to give you 500 watts at 4 ohm, and it's still a pretty compact chassis. This is a one-piece aluminum chassis amp, really nice build quality. All of these amplifiers are built in the USA, which is awesome. And then these are also fan cooled in the LC line of amplifiers. So if these are going to get installed under a seat or somewhere that's not going to have great ventilation, these guys will still stay pretty cool. If you look at the input side on the end here, we've got 80 amps worth of fusing. I've got my 4 gauge power and ground inputs, high level, low level inputs, ACR dash control knob plug, and my heavy gauge speaker outputs for the subwoofer. If we look at the top, we still have those Accubase controls, but I've also got a variable crossover on this one. So this is a 24 dB per octave variable low pass filter that you can dial in a little bit more precisely. Now this one also on the LC series is going to have not only the gain maximized light on here, but also our milk circuit. The milk circuit is maximum input level control, which is going to show you when your source is clipping essentially. So it's going to help you to dial in this amplifier as best you can, get the most out of it with the least amount of distortion, and make that car sound as good as we possibly can. If we need a little bit more power, we can step up to the big bad boy, the LC 1.1500. So this is going to give us 1500 watts at 2 ohms, 850 watts at 4 ohms, and still in a relatively small chassis. If we look at the end controls on this one, we've got 160 amps of fusing, our 1-aught power and ground connectors, low level and high level inputs, ACR control input, and my speaker output. If we take the top off this one, same thing, we've got our Accubase circuitry here, our crossover and gain controls, and then our maximized input, maximized output LED indicators here. So making these amplifiers pretty easy to set up and get the most bang for your buck out of these guys. These amplifiers also have some blue LEDs inside of them, so when they're turned on, they have kind of a cool blue glow to them. All of these amplifiers have a 5-year warranty when they're installed by an authorized reseller, and like I said, they're all built here in the US, just north of Seattle here in Mountlake Terrace, Washington. So if you have any questions on these or any other audio control products, feel free to give us a call or visit us on our website, www.audiocontrol.com, or you can contact us via Facebook or Instagram on social media. Thanks for watching.